So Jeff, stay on your best behavior. Both of you. Welcome, everyone. It is, for the record, September 2nd, 2021. This is our weekly business development advisor training. And today we have some amazing guests on, and really excited to have Jeff and Linda from Mass Mutual on. And really, as always, when we introduce a carrier, this conversation is going to be centered around asking the question, why should the agents that we work with and agencies we work with have Mass Mutual as part of their product portfolio? So there's no one else better to answer that than the horse's mouth. So that's why Jeff and Linda are on, and we're really excited. But without any further ado, I'm going to kind of pass it off to them. I will say this, just as always for housekeeping, this is a casual conversation. So these are, we're dealing with marketers and distributors as always. So we don't have to be, formal and go through, exact slides. Everyone, if you have questions that are on here, make sure that you ask them. Because really for us, it's by the end of this meeting, we want to be able to pick up on really 2 to 3 things at least that we can use in our tool belt when we're talking to agents and agencies to be able to pivot to Mass Mutual and describe why they should really have those products and use Mass Mutual's platform in their product portfolio. So take notes. There'll be a quiz afterwards. But without any further ado, Jeff, I'm going to pass it on to you. Hopefully technology works, because I know you said you're going to share your screen, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Nathan. Let's see if I can get this right here. Let me open this up. Drag that over there. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Wright. I'm here with Linda Mozique, my internal partner. And we are excited to be here with y'all. Let me just get this right. Hold on.
No worries.
Let me just start this here. All right, let's see. That's not what I want. So
as Jeff is doing that, I know for everyone that's on, listens to this afterwards, Mass Mutual is in the brokerage channel. This is a new contract for 3Mark, literally just kind of finalized things a couple weeks ago, I think. So this is a really opportune time to take note, because there's a unique opportunity on the back end of that, of being able to talk to these type of agents and bring them onto our platform rather than somebody else's. So take special note, and we'll think of some target markets and some opportunities afterwards.
Good to go. Thank you. All right, so it's going to look a little odd. I'm having issues. I got 3 screens here, and I'm sharing. You all can see my screen here, right?
Yep. Why whole life is important.
That's it. The challenge is it's over on the right hand side. So I'm here, but I'm going to be looking over there a little bit more than usual. So please bear with me. So basically, Nathan, you teed up the question. Why is whole life? Why is it important? Why should you be concerned or interested in doing business with Mass Mutual? And I'm going to take kind of to answer a larger question to start with here, and then I'm going to back up in this presentation a little bit. If y'all got, as Nathan said, if y'all got questions, just jump right in. I'm a pretty informal guy, and Linda has to put up with me in that respect, but that's who I am. So I think our big focus at Mass Mutual is whole life insurance. We did last year $671 million of new business, which makes Mass Mutual the 4th largest writer of life insurance in the United States. And the introduction, and I'll get more into the introduction of our channel and what we're doing here in a little bit, and why that's exciting. But our main product, the vast majority of our business, is whole life insurance. We're the 2nd largest writer of whole life insurance in the United States. So the big question is, why is whole life important? And I think if you look, I love this slide because there's 3 graphs on it. And this is all LIMR data. So this is Jeff and Linda that just created some graphs and says, this looks pretty good. But if you look at the left graph there, that's kind of products and product sales as a percentage of the market share in the United States for life insurance. And that light blue line, you'll notice, is whole life insurance. And this graph goes back to 1985. And if you look from 1985 to about 1998, whole life was the #1 selling product. And surprisingly, picking back up in about 2011, 12, you'll see whole life insurance is the #1 selling product again. So there was a small window there where whole life was not the #1 selling product in the United States. But if we go back to 1985, it is the #1 selling life insurance product in the United States. As a starting point, if you're not selling it, it's something you should be looking at and be involved with. That middle graph, and this is an important one, you look where distribution comes from of life insurance sales in the United States. In that middle graph, you see the light blue line and you see the dark blue line. That dark blue line, they call it independent. So the light blue would be career agencies, but that dark blue would be independent, which is almost exclusively of what we're doing here. You all work from an independent perspective, and the BGA marketplace, which we're moving into in the institutions, is the independent line. And I bring that up because y'all represent the largest distribution channel in the United States for life insurance sales. All right, so #1 selling product, #1 selling distribution channel. And now if you look at the third graph, and I think this is where it comes together and answers the question, why is whole life insurance important? And I think the overlay in a moment I'm going to show you is why is Mass Mutual whole life important? But you look at that share of business, and for whole life insurance sales by distribution, and you notice that independent or BGA channel, which we're all part of here, it just kicks around 10%. So the #1 channel for distribution in the United States is selling only 10% of their total product share is the #1 selling product in America. So there's some kind of disconnect that's happening there, but I think that's the opportunity. We're not just coming to you all with another term insurance product and say, hey, sell our term insurance. We're cheaper by 4 cents, or here's another IUL product. So, just forget about the 25 IULs you have right now. What we're saying is we're bringing you a world-class whole life product to the biggest distribution channel in the United States, and y'all aren't selling hardly any of this. This is the opportunity. So Nathan, you asked that question. Why is this important? Why should y'all pay attention and be interested in selling whole life insurance? I think this is the big answer right there.
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, those are very revealing slides in what's happening in our market space, and a lot of times we don't see.
Did you freeze up on me?
Oh,
so
can you still hear me? Test 1 2. Can anybody hear me? Let's see. I looks like I froze. Can anybody hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Yeah, all I was saying is, hey, those slides are awesome. Is that something that we can use actually? Those three, that slide right there?
Yeah, I can give you this whole presentation.
Awesome.
I'll send it to you after we're done here, and y'all can share it. So this is kind of the big picture, right? Okay, so we're going to back up here a little bit, and I'm going to go to the beginning of this. And this is something we realize that most folks in our channel haven't sold whole life insurance and haven't had a lot of experience selling whole life insurance. And one of the things we've identified from the beginning is we know we're going to have to do a lot of work from an education standpoint, and why to sell whole life, how to sell whole life, where does it fit, and why is it a good product? So we've started building out an educational series called Whole Life University. And this is the first deliverable we have on it. And this is, we're going to go through this today and kind of pivot all around, but it's designed to be a 30-minute presentation. It can be done in person, but most times it's done on a virtual basis. So if you all are looking for something to bring to your advisors and your agents, we'd be happy to do this presentation for you. We can get you an invite, and you all invite folks and to bring them through this presentation. But this first one is the myths and misconceptions of whole life insurance. And basically, so the first one here is the introduction to whole life, the myths and misconceptions. The next one that should be out in the relatively near future is whole life insurance from an accumulation standpoint. Your LURPs and everything else to go there. And then the final one we've got on the drawing board right now is the protection. How does whole life fall into your protection sales, your wealth transfer, and those type of sales? I think after that, we'll probably build out one digging deep into dividends and outside business earnings, which is kind of a big part of the whole life story. So basic agenda here. I'm going to talk for a moment about Mass Mutual's commitment to the brokerage space, the BGAs, and the institutional channel. kind of before we go, get too far down the line into the myths and misconceptions, let's put Mass Mutual's position in this coming into the life insurance business today in the context with where we've been, where we are today, and what's happening in the future from a product standpoint. And then we're going to kind of talk briefly about the whole life myths and misconceptions. So sound good, everyone?
I like it. That's a good agenda.
Right on. All right. So first thing, Mass Mutual's commitment to this business. As I mentioned a minute ago, Mass Mutual, we sold $670-something million of life insurance last year. The number one seller of life insurance. All right. And part of just to understand from a historical standpoint, a few years ago, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, Mass Mutual purchased MetLife's career agency system also. So you had two very large career systems coming together, and you had some very rapid growth from life insurance sales for Mass Mutual once they did that. But things are now kind of gone to a normalized growth pattern, if you will. And Mass Mutual's long-term goal is to be the number one seller of life insurance in the United States. So they looked at everything and they said, you know what? We need to find another way to distribute our products, not just through our career agents primarily. And the board authorized an investment of $250 million last October to build out this channel. And our channel is actually called Mass Mutual Strategic Distributors. So I think, number one, any life insurance company that's going to commit $250 million to a new project is a huge number. But I think it's even more important if you put it into context with what's going on in the whole industry. This might be the first time in my adult life where there's actually I start to feel like we might actually have a supply problem to help deal with the needs in selling the life insurance solutions to our agents and clients. So it's a really big deal. From a standpoint how this is going to work, MMSD, Mass Mutual Strategic Distributors, is a completely separate division from the career company. And we have all recognized, because all of us that have come to here, we've got a lot of experience doing life insurance sales for insurance companies in the BGA space. And we know there's a huge difference between the career company mentality and how we have to do business in the independent space with it from a BGA perspective. And that's why it's so important that it's a separate division and there's this large financial commitment that we've made. So we've got a really good team of people. Lisa Todd is kind of running the whole distribution for this channel. Lisa Todd's been around for years. You haven't met her, she's fantastic. And then our national sales manager is a gentleman named David Reynolds. Dave and I have known each other for many years. He was at Lincoln. I'm based out here down here in Texas, in Houston, and kind of my core territory has been the Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Dave and I had an overlap for many years, and we were friendly competitors, but he was very good at it. And then he went to global not long after that. But so we've got a really good person that's got a lot of experience that's leading this team. And there's that deep understanding of the BGA community. And I can't underemphasize that importance, because, we're not perfect right now. And Lyndon and I were talking this morning. There's all kinds of things we're working through from a process standpoint where we're breaking the mold and we're going to have to change systems. So I guess I would tell you straight up, Mass Mutual from a product perspective, a company perspective, a financial perspective, rock solid. Okay. But from a process standpoint, we're still working through certain things, and we're going to kind of apologize in advance. But with this kind of financial commitment and what they're doing with recognizing, we help them identify and recognize where a problem is from a process standpoint, and they are attacking those things. Not everything has been smoothed out yet, but for example, right now we can just do paper applications. Electronic applications for us will be at the beginning of the year. There's a lot of great things coming down the pike, but it's not just a company that says, we're going to do these things without the financial resources behind it. Our division, they've hired over 100 people already just for our division, which is a huge commitment if you think about it. We had one of our lead underwriters on a call with just the wholesalers on Monday, and apparently we're already up to 29 underwriters that they've hired just dedicated to our channel. from my last carrier that I came from, I mean, I don't think we had 29 underwriters. So it's pretty amazing and impressive what they've done from a commitment standpoint. From an advanced design and standpoint, we've already got 5 people in our advanced design area. So we've got a deep bench of experienced folks, and that breadth can help you with some advanced designs. They're building out a lot of great concepts. Randy Zipsey, Deidre Hubenak, Lena Storm. I mean, we just got a great team of folks, and with specializations in things such as premium finance, just different estate planning and wealth accumulation type concepts. From an underwriting perspective, we have a gentleman that's in charge of our whole division from an underwriting perspective. His name is Roger Hergenrader. Roger comes to us from the M Group. He's been at the M Group, I think, for the last 7 or 8 years. And before that, he was the chief underwriter at Lincoln Benefit. So our goal and where we're going to be in the relatively near future is to be able to do business with y'all from an ordinary and customary perspective, how you're used to doing business right now. Where you don't have to, if you want to do business with Mass Mutual, up to this point, you had to go through a local career shop with their brokerage manager, and you had to do business their way, as opposed to all the other cases you run through the brokerage platform are done a certain way. It was very different. We're not 100%, as I said, perfect at that yet, but we're going to be ordinary and customary way of doing business in the same platform, and using the platform with 3Mark, where if the case doesn't work out with us, all the medical information, everything is there, and you can pivot to help get the solution for your client. So, any questions at this point, just real quick?
I mean, there's some things that I'll pop up later, but I mean, I'll let you get through the presentation. There's a couple of things that I have afterwards, but that's a change in model for Mass Mutual. So that's with a change in model. The only point that I will bring out again is that there's usually lots of opportunity. So keep that aware. We'll talk more about near the end and then afterwards about what that looks like, because there's lots of Mass Mutual reps. There's lots of people that want to leverage Mass Mutual, but like I said, the channel previously was a lot different. So with all the money that's being dumped into this side in the independent BGA world, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. So I'm going to say and illustrate that point. We can talk about what that means afterwards, but.
Good to go. So moving on here a little bit, we start talking about, the past, the present, and the future of product evolution. And, this kind of goes back in the beginning, it was all whole life insurance and some term insurance in our business. And then in the late 70s, early 80s is when we had the first introduction and creation of universal life as a chassis. And that kind of, that was on a parallel track with high inflation, very high inflation, stagflation, if you will, and interest rates and everything else. So that really led to the innovation of universal life. And then from that point on, we had very high current assumed interest rates on the current assumption ULs, and we all know how that worked out. That didn't work out so well, but that kind of opened up the place along the way here, where we saw VUL start to become, and using that universal chassis, but changing the engine from interest rates to equities and other investments that were separate accounts. And from there, we hit the late 90s, early 2000. And I think VUL probably peaked out at about the peak of the market before the dot-com crash, if you will, that happened right about in here. And then that led to the innovation of GUL. And, if you look at what GUL was a few years ago, go back 10 years or so, I mean, you could get back in the mid, 2000s, you could get a GUL that was so inexpensive, it was hard to believe. But I think the marketplace was a little too aggressive with their pricing at that. And you see where that's evolved in this low interest rate environment, that, the price today versus 15 years ago for the same case on a GUL is significantly higher. And carriers constantly are either pulling out of the GUL space or they're raising their prices. So it becomes more and more expensive. And then we had IUL that kind of came along here. But the whole time we have whole life insurance it's a big player in the marketplace from a total sales perspective. I talked about this slide a few minutes ago. All right, let's kind of think about, all right, Mass Mutual, a major life insurance carrier today, making a $250 million investment as we go into this marketplace, okay? So we can offer, and the goal is to grow. And I said 250 million is the number. Well, interestingly enough, our 5-year goal from our division is in 5 years that we should be writing $250 million of sales, life insurance sales out of our division alone. If we accomplish that goal, and when we accomplish that goal, that should make Mass Mutual the #1 seller of life insurance in the United States. But you lay that against the background or the macro scene where think about how many large carriers have exited, big names that have exited the life insurance business over the last 10 years. I can speak from experience. 10 years ago, I was working for Sun Life, huge company, very strong. But you know what? It was December 12th. I woke up in a hotel room on a Monday morning at 6:08. I had an email saying, you know what? Regret to inform you all, we are exiting the U.S. life insurance business. But that wasn't the first carrier that exited the business. Think of how many carriers that were big names that no longer sell life insurance in the United States. MetLife, Voya, Lincoln Benefit. And the most recent one from a couple months ago, which I think shocked everyone, is Principal. They've decided to leave the retail life insurance business. You kind of overlay that too with, and it was back in the early 2000s, probably 2000, 2001 for a number of years, but there were a lot of demutualizations that happened in our business where basically, we all know the difference between a stock company and a mutual company, but with a mutual company, which Mass Mutual is, our policyholders own the company. There's not that tension, if you will, between stockholders and policyholder values. And with all the demutualizations out there, we go back to the products that are available to y'all to work with your agents with on the shelf, if you will, in the marketplace. Most of the carriers you're dealing with today are stock companies. And there's always going to be that natural tension between policyholder value and shareholder value. And what it also does as a mutual carrier at Mass Mutual is it lets the company make investments with a long-term focus, not on this quarter or the next quarter from an investment standpoint. In addition to that, we've seen also, and this is kind of a relatively new thing, and I'm not sure if it's good or bad, but we've seen, life insurance companies be bought or controlled by private equity firms. And, I'm not sure how that's going to play out long-term, but it's not that trend of private equities buying life insurance companies is not something that seems like it's going to end in the near future. The most recent one is a couple of weeks ago, American National, the Moody family sold it to a private equity firm. In addition to that, you look at today where the focus is for most insurance companies. Most insurance companies do not have the appetite, if you will, to write as much business as they have been for the last, for a long time. Up to this point, you've had so many, and I say this point, and this point probably started at about the beginning of last year or somewhere lined up with the whole COVID situation. But carriers don't want to grow their life insurance sales the same way right now. There's a lot of carriers that are pulling back from a sales perspective today. In addition to that, the products that we want to sell the most in our business being permanent life insurance, we understand and value term insurance, but so many carriers have decided they want to try to delever or reduce their financial strain on their books. As a result, a lot of focus from a lot of carriers is number one, term insurance. We need to push more term insurance. We all know how razor thin margins are on term insurance and how small premiums are. It's hard to make a good living just selling term insurance. The other big trend you're seeing from most life insurance companies today is they want to go back to the future, if you will, back to the 90s and early 2000s and start selling a lot of accumulation VUL. Not the VUL like the VUL1 or the Pru product where you've got long-term death benefit guarantees, but the type where there's essentially all the risk has been shifted to the consumer, and good luck with it, So you take that in conjunction with the fact that, in our market space, there's a lot of producers that no longer have their securities license. There's a lot of firms that don't even want to do the VUL business. And then that kind of leads to the fifth point here And that fifth point is case capacity. There's a contraction going on in our business, not just from carriers and everything else, but the carriers that are there, most of them don't want to sell the large policies like they used to. Where you could easily put together a very large line in the past or get a lot of auto bind coverage from most carriers. Today, that's a completely different dynamic. So any questions or comments at this point?
And the last one, as I say, I know like in the premium financing space, Allianz got out of that space and they were big in it. And you bring up a lot of points of a lot of the changes that are happening. And with all those, I like your slides, Jeff.
Thanks, Nathan. Thank you. I try to make it relevant, right? So here's some of the common myths and misconceptions about whole life insurance. All right. And I'm going to just kind of go over these real quick because I want to talk a little bit more about our product in a few minutes, kind of just our product suite, and then also kind of touch on some stuff from underwriting and answer whatever questions y'all have. But basically, what are some of the common myths and misconceptions? Number one, whole life insurance is too expensive. Number two, compensation is poor on whole life insurance. Number three, it's not a flexible product. Number four, dividends are complicated and hard to explain. And number five, it's very difficult to get distributions in your money that you've accumulated inside of a whole life out of those products. So, number one, it's too expensive. Well, let's just say come from a different thing. Expenses are relative. More times than not, you get what you pay for, right? And this is kind of a random thought that's kind of been percolating in my head since I've got here about 5 months ago, or almost 6 months ago here at Mass Mutual. But going back, my experience with whole life was when I started as a career agent with Mass Mutual back in 1994. And by 95, 96, I pivoted where I've been primarily in the universal space. So I haven't had a lot of experience with whole life along the way. And I think my experience is not that different from most folks that we deal with in our marketplace. All right. And I think about, over all the years and all the 1035 exchanges we've all done, we look at policies, and generally speaking, there's a big difference between a whole life and most universal life policies we go in to work with. Most universal life based chassis, and not all of them, but the majority of them, when we came in to work on that case and it was a 1035 exchange, that policy was in big trouble. It wasn't going to survive. There were a lot of issues going on, and we're trying to find a new solution to save that value for the client. More times than not, when we look at a whole life, we bring a whole life and we work on it. We try to grab a little bit more insurance or find a reason to move it. But the commonality I've always found with the whole life policies that we worked on from a replacement standpoint was they had a lot of cash in them. Whole life insurance contracts are very rich in cash. You've got guaranteed premiums, guaranteed death benefits, and guaranteed cash value. That's the interesting part, is you get it. You get that guaranteed cash value and that guaranteed premium duration. Another thing that's kind of in the backdrop here is that really helped me make my decision to come to Mass Mutual. And you heard a lot of the reason I did it, but also all of us woke up at the beginning of this year, and I don't think it was on almost no one's radar about the changes that we're going to pass, in the 11th hour or the 12th hour of last year from Congress. And that would be the 7702 changes. All right. In the 7702 changes, essentially, because it was a low interest rate environment, and this was something that was pushed from a great deal by the big whole life companies, was in a low interest rate environment, these policies are predicated on your guarantee. And most whole life contracts had a 4%, they had a 4% guarantee. Well, that was meaning that because of this environment, less and less companies were comfortable actually giving those long-term guarantees. Because from a construct perspective, when you build a universal life, it's all built on the current assumption. Yeah, there's guarantees, but if you look in the guarantee column, generally speaking, unless it's a GUL, you don't even want to fathom the guarantee column. And what you're seeing typically in a universal life chassis is, by and large, the best case scenario. When you go to a whole life, the whole contract is built off that guaranteed cash value and that guaranteed interest rate. And everything is guaranteed at age 100 for endowment. So you've got kind of a different perspective how it's coming to. But I knew 7702 from an accumulation standpoint was going to be a monster. And that's something I'll talk about in a few minutes from a product perspective, but we've got our new 7702 products are going to come out in November. Our 10-pay product is awesome. It's not uncommon, and well, generally speaking, if you run an alert type sale, you compare it against all the IUL products out there. We're not only going to be in the top half from a distribution standpoint with guarantees and everything else there, and not all those moving parts of cap rates and participation rates and so on and so forth, but it's not uncommon that we're actually in the top third from distributions using that whole life policy with our 6% dividend. Next up, compensation. And the tricky part is our new products, we're going to go to more of a target formula. But today, this is an example using our 15-pay product versus an IUL with a $100,000 premium. And, targets are usually about 40% on an IUL. But if you look in this case here, based on that target of $41,000, which is the industry average for a male 45 for a $100,000 premium, the first year compensation to your agent is about $38,000. And then typically there's a 1% renewal that happens on the universal chassis. All right. So that's another $1,000 a year for 9 years. So you compare that against our whole life policy, the 15-pay product right here, and your first year compensation is $40,000. And to the agent, there's a 5% renewal that's going on. So that means another $5,000 a year for 9 years. So in reality, whole life at first, it's not going to pay you the highest percentage, but it's not, what your percentage doesn't matter as much as what's the bottom line. How much does everybody make on the sale at the end of the day? And I think that's the value in whole life. Is I've learned more and more because I always thought you got paid less in whole life too. Another one is whole life insurance is not a flexible product. This is something Linda and I laugh about. Well, laugh about it, not always in a positive way, but the perception is whole life is not flexible. Well, I'll tell you, between all the different riders that are built into our product and the things you can do with those riders, it is more flexible. Whole life insurance with Mass Mutual is more flexible than the vast majority of the universal life products you'd use today. Everything from Ailer to Lisser, all these different riders that can help build and accomplish what you want to accomplish. And there's plenty of really good guaranteed options also. If clients want to stop paying premiums, there's reduced paid up insurance options. You've got paid up paid up additions that are going along the way to help grow that policy. Another one is dividends are complicated and too hard to explain. Well, if you actually look at it, dig into the dividends, I think the big mistake, or the common misconception right there, is the dividend is only predicated on the investment results of the general account, which was what my feeling was. But there's so much more that goes with it because most of these mutual companies have invested in different lines of business in other places, which create significant outside business earnings, which are those earnings come right into the pot, and it's a mutual company, so it's shared with the policyholders. We have a 6% dividend today. All right. You can't just do that with a bunch of bonds. There's no way you could build a 6% dividend in this environment with interest rates today. The best example of our outside business earnings would be Oppenheimer. We owned Oppenheimer for many years, and we just sold it a couple of years ago to Invesco. And we have a large ownership in Invesco from a preferred stock perspective, which generates a significant earning for us every year, which helps. It's got to be worth probably 50 basis points at least in our dividend that we're paying the folks. You've got the mortality component because remember, everything's based off of guarantees. So every time that the mortality is better than the guarantee, that creates a larger pot of money, which goes back to help support that dividend rate. And also it's the insurance company managing their expenses and keeping expenses down. And as long as they do that, there's more dividend there for someone. The best example I can give you is just oversimplify here, using this case right here, end of 2020 value. There's $23,736 of value. The annual premium is $2,800. Your mortality and other expenses cost you about $477. The net policy would be $26,000, a 6% dividend, which is $1,500 plus 26 $100,000 gives you a $27,000 value at the end of the year. Pretty straightforward. It just is, the calc is just a little bit different than what we're used to from those monthly charges that come out of a universal life policy. The fifth point here is, it's hard to get, or you can't get your money out of a whole life contract. And I think there are some whole life contracts with other carriers that this has a more relevance, if you will. But with our contracts, loans are available. You can have a direct, you can choose to have your policy direct recognition or non-direct recognition, depending on how you want to take money out of it. You can do partial surrenders. And also you can accelerate your death benefit or use a long-term care rider. So I'm going to kind of just stop right here, see what other questions are, and I want to kind of go into a different slide with a little more product and underwriting focus, if you will, because I know we only have about 20 minutes left.
No worries. And we'll say, Tiffany, glad to have you on. I know you have a lot of experience with Mass Mutual as well. So nice to have you here. Any questions that anybody else has? Quiet bunch.
Yeah, really.
No questions till the end, huh? Stoic faces. All right. Well, I'll go through product and then and then, like I said, I have a couple things that I want to ask just about how the distribution model works and how that works with, current broker, Mass Mutual agents and things like that. But let's breeze through the products so that everyone has an understanding of kind of where that fits and what that looks like. And then let's spend a few minute conversation on, the distribution model then.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. And I think there's some kind of rules of the road that are important and to understand. So I'm going to share my screen again. All right. Y'all see that?
We see nothing.
You see no. Oh, I didn't press share. That's why I selected it. But I didn't.
There we go.
All right. So I'm going to kind of just zoom through a couple things here. And some of this is repetitive. Real important. Linda and I are your representatives to help everyone that you all work with because of your relationship with 3Mark. So let me get in here.
That was one question I was going to ask if, because I know how regions are broken up. Sometimes that changes, but that makes it nice. Everyone goes to you and Linda.
Exactly. And that's because of the BGA relationship, which goes through 3Mark, which is down here in Houston. So
perfect.
There's something I mentioned a few minutes ago as far as whole life goes. There's three big guarantees you get inside of a whole life contract. You get guaranteed premiums, you have guaranteed death benefit, and guaranteed cash value. The premium component here, there's a caveat with that, was dependent on the product. You also get guaranteed premium duration also, plus the dividends. Kind of get through a couple more things. Sorry, there's extra slides here, y'all.
No worries.
This is kind of a neat slide here. Our dividend payout. We're going to pay out about $1.7 billion in dividends this year. We've paid out $22 billion over the last 15 years. And we've paid a dividend consistently for 153 consecutive years. It's kind of cool. You look, and we were doing a presentation back in May, and that, I think it was Saturday or Sunday before the presentation, Mass Mutual celebrated their 170th anniversary from the founding of the company. So that's pretty cool. You can see the dividend payout along the way. Here's our dividend scale right here. You'll see here, we're at 6% today. If we go back 20 years, it was about an 8.3. And I draw your eyes to that because over 20 years, we've seen the dividend go down. And we all understand the interest rate environment, but we've seen the dividend go down about 25%. And I like to draw, and people say, well, dividends are going down. That's a fair statement. But what I like to do is contrast that to IUL and cap rates. Mm-hmm. And let's just think about the last 2 or 3 years. Cap rates have gone down, generally speaking, by more than 25% in the last 2 or 3 years. Only 10 years ago, there were carriers that had caps out there that were 15 and 16% on their S&P 500, the 1 year point to point. And in a very short amount of time, most of those caps are down around 9 or 8.5%. Okay, so just because the equity market and the S&P 500 and everything has just been killing it, that doesn't necessarily translate into that same type of result or earnings for your consumer. And that's another big part why I think whole life insurance is so important, is because we are so equity focused today in the United States for most of our customers. You really can't get any fixed income anywhere for someone. All right. So you overlay that, a lot of equity exposure for most people. If they do have some bonds, they're sitting on a ton of risk in bonds because the interest rates are so low today. Interest rates go up a little bit, and guess what? They're going to lose a lot of their value because of the inverse relationship of interest rates and value of those bonds. Okay. And I don't think most people understand the risk that's there with bonds. What whole life insurance provides for you is a non-correlated asset. So we're building out people's helping supplement their retirement plans and everything else to have a non-correlated asset, which is what whole life insurance is. It's paying that 6% dividend. Think about how big a deal that is when we have a portfolio and you start looking at sequence of returns. And if somebody, we have a large correction of 25 or 30% in the market, but somebody still needs in retirement that same income of whatever X is. If they take that from that portfolio when it's down 25 or 30%, that really is going to hurt the long-term performance of that portfolio. And that's where having a non-correlated asset like whole life insurance, which if we build it correctly, should be tax-free access to that money also, right? That's why it's so important. You know what? Don't just do the same thing for everything. You need to diversify and have a non-correlated asset for part of your retirement. Let me get to the our portfolio here. All right, here's our portfolio, our whole life insurance portfolio today. By the way, we still have we have a GUL, we have a survivorship GUL, we've got a full suite of term insurance, including an ART, and we have a variable life contract. The challenge with those products are we're in New York, our company from a rule perspective, we have to follow the New York rules, which makes it so, the max comp, they lay out what the max compensation is for products. And that's not really a big surprise in the participating whole life category from mutual companies. There's a normalcy of that. But when you get to the other products like the GULs and the term and the variable life, the compensation will be a little bit lower if you use that. So I'm going to call your attention just to a couple key products. And as I said, in November, our portfolio is changing with the update from the 7702. But your traditional whole life would be that Legacy 100. That's the product where premiums forever, death benefit forever, and then at some point down the line you can use your dividends if you want to offset your premium. Okay, that's your flagship product from a death benefit perspective, and some people that want to just build some cash with it along the way. Kind of the other on the end of the spectrum would be the accumulation products. Right now, probably our flagship accumulation product is that 15 pay, which, with some design things, we can actually shorten up the premium duration on that. But everything's going to change in November when that 7702 product is out. By the way, y'all can illustrate that new 7702 10 pay product today. This product, as I mentioned a little while ago, is fantastic. So there's going to be a new 10 pay. You can illustrate it today. You can put a case in for underwriting for that today. We just won't be able to place it till November. But that's going to be the play going forward, and that product is going to be fantastic. And what I would say on that too is any accumulation type sales you're all doing today or premium finance, I would start, and you've got to mentally pick your point where you want to start showing it, because the product's not going to be available to sell until November. But we all know that life insurance sales in the cycle is more than a few weeks typically, right? For better or worse, that's what it is. If you're doing an accumulation sale, I would strongly encourage you to show our new 10 pay product as an alternative to that IUL you might be showing. And just for the simple standpoint, you're going to see the numbers are going to be very similar, but you're not going to be at the whims of the insurance company from a cap reduction, a participation rate reduction, COI changes. Everything is essentially guaranteed except for the dividend in our whole life contract. And you'll see, I think there's a value of looking at the guaranteed cash value and an income you can get there. So I'd encourage you just to start showing this as an alternative and give your clients the choice. Yes, Jeff.
How can I phrase this? If an application for a term is submitted today and approved, when that does become eligible for issue, can a conversion take place to it?
Absolutely, Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. Yeah. So if you want to, put a term insurance in force today, let's just say, you got your customers bound. When we do that conversion, a couple things, it'll be smooth at that point. Number one. Number two, there's no chargeback for the amount earned on the term insurance for the conversion. So that's what I call a win-win. From a product perspective, kind of going back to the larger suite, we also have the survivorship whole life insurance. I know there's not a lot of survivor products out there right now. This is one of them. And also, I've looked at a couple cases with this. We have a high early cash value product. Premiums are only due to age 85, but you obviously can build it so it's a much shorter premium duration. But this is a nice looking product. You get a guarantee, not a guarantee, but your cash value is generally about 85+% out of the gate. It's a lower compensation structure, but if you're looking for some situation where somebody's looking to warehouse a lot of cash, and it's typically a much larger case, this product can work very well also. So I'm going to hit a couple things from, let me go back here 1 second. We've got a full suite of riders. You get your waiver premium. We've got an LTC rider if you want to add it. There's a lot of riders. We can accomplish a lot of things for you. Ratings, better than average, I'd say. Here's an example of a 15-pay case, $50,000 a year for 15 years. You look at it, you can see from a guaranteed cash value at the end of the 15th year, you've got a guaranteed cash value of $655,000. If you look at the total cash value, it's not that much more, believe it or not. And this, from a current non-guaranteed standpoint, you go out here at age 71 at year 26, you can get a tax-free income of $114,000 a year for 20 years. So it's more than double for 5 years longer than what your premium commitment was. And it's a lot easier to explain, a lot less moving parts. I mean, how many clients forget about agents for a second, how many clients you think understand how caps work and participation rates? And, is it a 2-year, what's the methodology? Is it a monthly average? Is it a, annual point to point? It's a very confusing process to people. That's why this non-correlated asset of life insurance, whole life insurance, I think is so strong. All right, I'm going to get some underwriting stuff here real quick so we can take questions. Internal retentions. We've got 15 million for individual. We can get that to 20 million if somebody needs it and it's a whole life or a survivorship whole life. For survivorship, we have 20 million. As far as auto bind, our auto bind is $60 million up to and including age 75, which is a huge number. You take that and you overlay it with the fact that the jumbo is 65 million. So what does that mean? If you have somebody between formal applications and in-force coverage at or below $65 million, and let's say somebody's got $5 million in force and they want another $60 million of coverage. So that, a formal application with us plus that 5 million equals 65. Well, we can do that full 60 million for you based on our reinsurance agreements without ever talking to a reinsurer. It's a really good process. So we also are part of the super pool. I mentioned our advanced design team, a bunch of all-stars, if you ask me. So we've got about 8 minutes left. So let's take questions. And you're on mute, Nathan.
On my end, what I wanted to ask a question about was about distribution. So right now, Mass Mutual has, of course, the agency model, and then they have the broker division already. Where do you see this division affecting or being able to capture some of those spaces? Is that even an option? Is there a protected hierarchy on those concepts? Talk a little bit about that side, if that made sense.
Rules of the road, if you will.
Yeah, rules of the road for current Mass Mutual broker contracts and where they are right now and what that would mean for this channel specifically.
All right, let's break it down. Number one, we have somebody that was a career agent inside of Mass Mutual and they leave that career agent. And this was in place before we ever it's for years, the contract that career agent signs basically says if they leave that career agency, if they want to do business with Mass Mutual, for 24 months, they have to do their Mass Mutual brokerage business through that office. Okay. So 24 months from the day somebody leaves their career contract, we can't do business with them. All right. That's number one. Number two, for folks that are currently contracted through a local MMFA or career office and the brokerage side of that office, number one, don't terminate that contract. We don't want people to lose any access to anything or anything else, but people can be dual contracted with us. And what I mean by that is, so somebody's been doing some business over time with a local office. They want to do business through us here in this channel. Just get them recontracted and they can start doing business. Okay. As a side point there, that's dual contracting. We allow dual contracting also between multiple BGAs if that comes up. Okay. So if you run into somebody that's been doing business, it's probably small likelihood at this point because we just got this thing going, but has been doing business with MMSD, our side of the house, through brokerage through another firm, they can do business with us and you don't have to terminate that contract. You can just have another contract with them. Okay. Now here's a caveat. One of the caveats is there are some agents that have been doing a large amount of business with the brokerage offices over the years. Okay. So there's a list. It's a little bit fuzzy, but I think the list is between 150 and 180 agents across the country that are on a protected list. So for 24 months, they can't do business in our channel. All right. And that 24 months started back in March. It was the clock. So we're already five-ish months or so into that 24 month. So if you've got somebody that's been doing a lot of business with Mass Mutual over the last few years, send me an email with their name, their address, and maybe the last four of their social security, and I'll run it up to management and they'll tell us if they're on the list or not. Okay. As far as, the contract, I mean, you can do business with anybody. I'd ask you not to do marketing specific just to say a New York Life or Northwestern list, if you will. You've been doing business with people that do business or career agents or whatnot with those different career shops. You can do business with them. Just don't make it a specific marketing campaign to them. Part of the reason for that is because you learn a lot in this process, but the Mass Mutual career agencies, their number one place to recruit new career agents is from Northwestern, New York Life, and Guardian. Okay. And it's vice versa for all of it. It's very incestual between those four big mutuals, if you will, that have career agencies. Okay. Beyond that, anybody you want to do business with, it's open season. Okay. The other thing I would say too, from a contracting standpoint, we're having a contracting issue today where we're going to be a just-in-time contracting firm. Obviously, there's your three states that are excluded from that. What is it? Kansas, Pennsylvania, and I think Montana. You have to be pre-appointment in those. But there's a systems issue right now, and the way business is supposed to work, you submit a case. We'll do contracting at the same time on a parallel track with doing case management and getting it to underwriting. Right now, because of the system, there's an absolute stop right there till that person is contracted. They can't move forward with everything else. It just won't work in the system. So what I would tell you, there's a couple things. If somebody's about ready to do business or they think they have a case to do business, get them contracted, number one. Number two, if we want to keep that case moving forward and want to get contracting done, you can initially submit the case on an informal basis. And then as soon as the contracting is done, you can send that application into. Okay. So
that was extremely useful. I think that actually, you answered a decent amount of my questions right through there.
Awesome.
Anything else that anybody else has? Like Tiffany, I'm going to pick on you just because I know you know that channel. So if you have any questions that might be beneficial for everyone to hear about that we're talking to, let me know. But we have Jeff and Linda for a few more minutes. I might have one or two other things, but anybody else before we go? Jeff, you just unmuted yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you can just touch on the 24-month clock. Does that, you said if somebody leaves the FA channel and they do it on a brokerage basis, if you will, they are committed to do it for the next 24 months or from when that clock started.
That's right.
with the business submitted, are they then become a free agent, if you will, and they can come over to this platform?
Yes, once 24 months are over, they can do business with Mass Mutual with any other career office if they want to, or they can do it with us at MMSD.
So basically it's a clock, not production.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as compensation, if somebody is with ABC and wants to come to us, are we limited by what their prior arrangement was? Or is that?
Y'all have free range.
Okay.
All right. Just keep in mind, and I don't have the specifics here. You can get that from the contract, Nathan, but and dig through it. But there are, New York not only says the max that could be paid out in the first year is 99, and it changes depending on the product. For shorter durations, it's not as much, but there's a max that the agent or broker can get paid on that. And I think if we're using the 100 product, I think 91 is the max legal amount that an agent can get paid.
Gotcha.
Are there any incentives that are being considered or in place now?
Such as?
Trips?
Not yet. Not yet. I can't say for absolute certainty, but I'll be shocked if we don't have some fun trips here. When the world gets back to normal, we start doing a fair amount of business. We got to do blocking and tackling first and get some of these important issues out of the way before we start to go to the level 2, you know? So.
What about a trip for just dealing with all the nonsense for, the next couple months?
Exactly right. You're right. A couple bottles of wine for that.
There you go. Anything on your end, Tiffany?
Not right now. I'm sure I'll have more questions though.
I'm sure you will. We'll keep Tiffany's real identity covered for right now. She's using an alias. No, that makes sense. Well, I want to honor time and get you guys out. This was really useful. Jeff, Linda, we're definitely going to be using you guys as resources. But anything else that anybody has? I just saw Jeff unmute yourself. Well, anything else, Jeff?
No, I mean, the last thing is that we look forward to supporting y'all. As I said a minute ago, we're not perfect yet, but you know what? We're going to get, well, perfect will never happen, but we're going to become damn good. We're going to be damn good, make life real easy, a lot easier for you than we are right now, more traditional. And the thing, like I said a couple times earlier, this new 7702 10-pay product is really good. If you're looking at cases, start looking at it. And I guess the final thing is, if anybody doesn't have access right now to WinFlex Web or anything else, Linda can help you get that squared away. Or if you need help with illustrations or anything, Linda can help you with that too. And one last thing. How many last things? It's like, I feel like one of the Rolling Stones on the final farewell tour, like 14 times, right? The other product we have that's pretty good is our Care Choice. We have the single premium and the multi-year up to, it's 12-pay product. You can shorten the premium on it. They're pretty darn good products. They've got it's based on a whole life chassis. So it might not be the cheapest, but you got a lot more cash, which cash means flexibility for your consumers later. The caveat with those products are for institutional businesses like the wirehouses, y'all can't sell it there. You don't get paid on it. And then within the broker dealers, folks that are securities licensed with their broker dealer, if you try to do the business through their grid in their broker dealer, you won't get paid on it. But if you do it just like normal outside business activities with fixed insurance, you'll get paid on it. So,
gotcha. That is good to know. Anybody have anything else for Jeff or Linda?
The 10-pay that's going to be available in November, is it on WinFlex now?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's why I'm like a broken record. Check it out.
That sounds good. Well, Jeff, Linda, we'll get you out of here. What I would like to do is we'll probably invite you back and maybe go over a little bit more specific on product side or things like that in the future. But this was good. We're excited about, the Mass Mutual open up this division. It's going to be interesting. I will say this to everyone, with a new department, because we've experienced it in the past, warn all the agents, just FYI, like be with them every step of the way, because things aren't going to be extremely smooth like they may be used to. like for example, the paper apps. I got to get my jabs in when I can, Jeff.
It's fair. It's fair.
But just be aware of that walk the agents and agencies through that you bring on board to this side of the platform. Give them the heads up. Be with them every step of the way. The Jeff, Linda, and the whole Mass Mutual team is going to make it as smooth as possible and going to fix problems when they can. But problems will come up, and we'll have to deal with that from our perspective and theirs as well. So with that said, though, we'll talk a little bit. Everyone stay on for a little bit longer with a couple other housekeeping things. We'll talk about some stuff. But for now, we'll kick off Jeff and Linda, and really appreciate your time. And like I said, we'll have you back again sometime in the near future.
Thank you all for your time. And, if you want to work jointly with us to do any training for folks like that, the Whole Life University, that stuff, just let us know. We'll work with you and we'll start the training.
So I was going to say, actually, this is my last thing, Jeff. Any resources or things that you have, if you can send that over, that can be used for everyone here to pass that to agents or use as materials, send that over. That would be super useful. I can give them access to all that really easily.
Good to go. Y'all have a great day. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you, Linda. Thanks, Jeff. Don. Bye, Jeff. Talk to you guys later.
Take care.
All right. So that was Mass Mutual. It is going to be an interesting ride over the next couple months, as mentioned, with them opening up this new division. It's I can't stress enough that it's not going to be smooth. They're a big carrier. They're a big name. Processes are not easy and usually archaic. And Tiffany already has some experience. So, but I will say this is what I wanted to talk about briefly, is that there's an opportunity. So, because on our side, we have access to a lot of different aspects and support tools and things like that. From what it sounds like, the opportunity on our side is for the agents, the Mass Mutual agents, and of course, anybody else that we want to pivot to that wants to sell Mass Mutual. We now have an outlet that they don't have to go through a career shop to even get the broker contract, but specifically Mass Mutual agents that are in the broker division. That, because we can get them dual contracted. So we can offer them the entire support system and of course the support that you yourself give in your relationship, which is key, because a lot of them in the broker side, because I know a decent amount of Mass Mutual career agency shops, the brokers, they don't focus on them, just hands down. If they're a broker, then they get a contract, they do their own thing, but they're not, the agencies typically aren't really focused on helping those brokers grow their practice. They're typically trying to get them back to, or get them on the career side of that agency. So we can come to them and say, hey, we can give you that, basically that same contract with a different level of support, and we can help you out with some other tools and help out in that arena. That's a pretty big opportunity. Because there's, and I didn't ask them like how many agents are contracted in the broker division with Mass Mutual, but there's a lot. So think of that aspect. Anything else that anybody wants to add on that end? All right. So I would say that's one area. Broker, Mass Mutual broker agents. We can get them over here. They can get dual contracted. They don't have to get rid of their contract, and they can start producing and writing right now. Career agents, we can have that conversation. And I would say the play with the career agents, because we can't move them over, but here's the deal. Remember, we have the affiliate agreement. So that affiliate agreement is not a direct contract with the Mass Mutual brokerage division. So for those agency owners that want to find a different way to support their broker agents and still earn a little bit off of that, we can give them an affiliate agreement contract, which Mass Mutual technically would never know about. It does not breach their contract. And they can then give access to all of those broker agents that are contracted with Mass Mutual, and they would be more open to giving lists if you can build a relationship with giving you those lists and talking to those agents, or them talking to them for you, because they have an incentive now. So that would be another play, is because the agency owners are easy to find. They're all over LinkedIn. You can Google them. They have offices. They're going to tell you who the main person is, and you can go to them and say, hey, we have a unique platform. This is what it looks like. As you probably already know, Mass Mutual is going into the independent broker division with this separate contract. How do you support your broker agents right now? And let them answer. And if they're doing something great for them, awesome. If they're not, or they want to be able to tag team and offer more support tools and different services to that side, they can do that through the affiliate contract, not touch anything that they're doing, and bring that on their, bring those broker agents that probably aren't doing a lot of business, some extra tools to be able to help them out, be able to do that.
Nathan, if they do an affiliate agreement, is it with the same numbers like normal as far as an affiliate is concerned? Because I'm thinking about branch here.
Yeah. Same numbers as in, what do you mean numbers?
When they're actually when their brokers start producing, would they be under the same contract levels of a normal affiliate?
That I don't know. And it depends on the agency. I'm going to bet, just because how I understand some of the agency, the career path and how the brokerage side works. If you're talking to the main managing partner or the MGA, whoever that is, honestly, they're probably going to get more perks for keeping them on the broker side. But the question that comes with keeping them on their broker path and their career side, I would imagine and that may be a conversation, if you want to do some snooping, Tiffany, and actually ask that may be interesting to be able to learn about. But the big question is going to be well, with those broker agents, how much production are they doing? How much support are they being offered? If the question is, if they could be provided more support or more tools, would they do more production, which would translate to more dollars from them? Because right now, through that current channel, they're probably not doing a whole lot. And with what you can do on your side, just with your experience alone, Tiffany, of actually working with people and that infrastructure, that would help them feel that they're part of a bigger team, be able to do more things with them, which means more production, which means more revenue. And that wouldn't happen unless you got involved and you were able to get compensated from it as well. So I would say that might be an angle on that side. But those are the two areas that I was thinking of: current broker agents that you run into, and then the career agency owners that have broker agents that are not doing a whole lot, or they're not supporting them, and find a way to get into that market space. That would be good two areas. And like I said, both of those relatively easy to find using LinkedIn, Google, just searching people up, because Mass Mutual people are not hard to find.
I heard you laugh about something about paper applications. Was that really a joke? That was a joke, right?
That was not a joke. He has stated that they will have a electronic app before the end of the year. So right now it's a paper app, because quite honestly, they're building out that whole department. Like they don't have the technologies in place. That's why this is going to be a mess for the next, I would honestly say it'll be hard over the next 3 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. It'll get better. It'll get a lot better after that. But because it sounds like I said, they've made a commitment to get into the independent space. And they should understand enough about how that works, and talking to the right people to bring in the right technologies, the right processes, the right underwriting tools, et cetera, et cetera. But right now it is a paper app. So that may be a hurdle.
I'm just
And
wondering, I mean, it's okay. I just know like right now inside of the branches are using, they switched over to Cover Path
okay,
in June, completely. But even with that, it's still taking like usually like 2 to 3 months to get things put through. So I was just wondering about that. If we went to paper, sometimes paper is faster. It's crazy with technology.
it's true.
sometimes.
Well, and I will say this, between Mass Mutual's commitment and then plus the help, because 3Mark will help push through some of that as well, especially on the paper app side. We can stay on that stuff and make sure that those cases, like if we bring on an agent, we can give them the optimal level of support, push it in as quickly as possible. And because I've talked with Jeff a couple times now, like they're trying to get business through that channel as quickly as possible. So they are going to make concessions and try to get things done quicker so that people have that good experience with, oh, these first two things went great, now I can give them more business kind of thing. Because we all know if the first case that goes through terribly, it's very hard to get that next piece of business afterwards.
Right.
But like I said, I think
Unless you've primed the person to let them know up front that this is what we're going to experience.
yeah, and that's the key. A relationship, and if you can eliminate the surprises as much as possible, then agents appreciate that much more than, okay, we'll push it through. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then it's not fine.
I noticed also there was no reference to any accelerated underwriting at this point either, is there?
And I should have asked them about that. They have some, but again, because things are paper app and things like that in the system, I know they're moving that direction.
Okay.
So, like I said, it's the opportunity is with I wouldn't push necessarily people that aren't, unless they're asking you, hey, I need a Mass Mutual contract. The real opportunity right now is for the people that are already in the Mass Mutual world, and they're looking for a different outlet, because they're already going to be familiar with some of the processes and how that works. You can give them a heads up that they've probably been given a heads up that this channel is coming out, or they found it through the grapevine. Some of them may not even know, to be honest. I don't know how that works with their communications. But that's where the opportunity is that allows us to talk to a Mass Mutual rep. And even if doesn't end up being them moving over to Mass Mutual, we can now have a conversation with them and flip them someplace else. So the idea here is earning the agent's contract, whether that be Mass Mutual or something else, great. But this is definitely a conversation starter for the massive amount of Mass Mutual reps that are out there. That is a new path and a new outlet that did not exist, 3 months ago. So leverage that, be able to pivot from it. That's really where the important part is. Like I said, even if it doesn't end up being Mass Mutual, find a different way for them. But any other questions on Mass Mutual right now? Last thing I'll say is on Mass Mutual, use the heck out of Jeff and Linda. Like like I said, I've talked with Jeff a few times about that, of who kind of has access to him and what that looks like. Send everyone his way. Bug the crap out of him. And he will be able to get those answers. Don't rely upon yourself to get all that stuff and what that looks like. Bring in Jeff to the picture. Have them have have some of those conversations, ask questions. That'll be super helpful for all of you.
The contact information on Dan.
Yeah, I think I've already put Jeff Wright's information. I'll put Linda's in that important contacts list. So they'll both be near the bottom.
Okay. Perfect.
But Jeff is already in there. So I'll put Linda's on there as well. Go into WinFlex and add I actually just did it while we were talking, and you can add Mass Mutual when you go to your profile and add companies, because you can illustrate that through WinFlex. And I think, yes, Jeff.
If you send Linda an email that you would like access to WinFlex, she'll get it for you the same day.
That works too. That's good to know. Well, cool. I think we're good on Mass Mutual. We'll talk more about it. I will post this recording in the band group a little bit later after it downloads and stuff like that. But I appreciate everyone's time. Jason, good to see your face.
Thanks, buddy.
It was oddly quiet the whole time because you showed up, a little afterwards.
I didn't even say anything after I showed up. So
Awesome. Well, it was good to have you on, Tiffany. Glad you can make it for some of it as well. Like I said, I'll get the recording out so you can hear the first portion. And then, the last thing. Jeff is going to send me some of those materials. I'll also post those in the band. I'll make a folder for Mass Mutual so that you guys can use that and leverage that as well. But on a cool note, Jody just had an awesome AMO conversation earlier. So congratulations to Jody. Looking to bring on another agency.
Congrats, Joe.
Thanks. It was basically a lead that Jason gave me from Connected, and I just followed through, had the conversation and set up the appointment with Nathan. And it sounds like there's a lot of potential there. So
Yeah.
hopefully that'll be a nice deal.
It was,
Little detail, is it a life agency, a PNC agency, combo?
She does Medicare. She's life and health licensed and PNC licensed, but primarily focuses on Medicare.
Awesome.
I think she's going into her busy season, so we're going to follow up again in the first of the year. But it went really well. It was a good conversation.
Right.
awesome. Well, congrats on that end. With that said, everyone have a great rest of your day. We will be talking soon. If you need anything else, just let me know. You know where to find me.
Thank you.
Sandra-
Thanks
Sandra
for your help
Hernandez.
today.
Sandra Hernandez is the one to contact for X-ray.
Yes. Just shoot her an email and ask her to set up the username and password.
Right.
That is correct. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you later. Tiffany, I may see you on a little bit later. We get to spend the day together, Tiffany.
Absolutely. I was a little thrown off with that. I was like, where am I supposed to be here both times? Okay.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk soon.
Likewise.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.